Hi folks, my name is Millennial Smark and I am back at it again with another video. 2.5 years later, second verse, same as the first. Coming from a different artist though. Shawn Michaels is now saying that the pro wrestling business is softer now, just like The Undertaker. They're saying that he admits it, but it's not really having to admit anything. It's obvious, it's blatantly obvious. But we'll talk more about that and I'll give more of my little consensus and detailed analysis to Anthony Bryan Logan and me after I read this article. So here, check it out real quick. Shawn Michaels is undoubtedly one of the best in-ring performers to have ever stepped foot inside the WWE ring. Shawn was touted as Mr. WrestleMania, and he truly lived up to the moniker. That being said, it appears Michaels admitted that the pro wrestling business is softer now. The Undertaker's controversial comments regarding the current pro wrestlers and the product back in 2021 became a huge topic discussion. He previously said that the WWE superstars of the current era are not real men compared to the wrestlers back in his era. The dead man even added that wrestlers from his era were far tougher. Even last year, The Undertaker doubled down on his controversial comments, stating that pro wrestlers nowadays lack grit. While speaking on KNC Masterpiece, Shawn Michaels was asked if he ever had to tell NXT talent some back in my day stories if they complained to him about traveling around Florida. Michaels would admit that the pro wrestling business is softer now, but healthier as well. And I quote for Shawn Michaels, "Every now and then, when they complain about much of anything, we give them a little come to Jesus chat," Michael said with a laugh. "I'm pretty good about not being the bitter old timer. I screwed up a bunch and try to show them the error of particular ways. It's a different business. Some of it is for the better. It's a much healthier atmosphere than it was when I started. There are some people who argue that it makes them a little softer. I can't disagree with that in some respects, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that it can't be better and can't be shaped up. We have a great culture here that Hunter, Triple H, put in place a decade ago. It's something we continue to build on. Every now and then, we need to remind them of just how great it is to do this line of work, how good it is they have to do it, and obviously getting the opportunity to jump outside the state of Florida and come to the state of Texas is going to be a blast for everybody." And, you know, I guess this is essentially Shawn Michaels talking about, I don't know, maybe NXT going to Texas. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of the article right there. So I'm not going to blow it completely out of proportion and be like, oh, you know, Shawn Michaels completely just emasculated the entire roster. But he did essentially call this off. He essentially did agree with The Undertaker, but he said it in a more politically correct way, obviously. And here we are back again talking about this subject 2.5 years later, and it hasn't gotten any better. I wouldn't say it has gotten any worse, because really, if you look at the state of professional wrestling from a professional wrestler's perspective, it's seen how they conversate on Twitter, seen how they carry themselves in the pro wrestling business overall, whether kayfabe or shooting style. It's all been the same since 2021. It's stagnant. Nothing has grown, nothing has decreased. It's been the exact same way all this time. And to kind of reflect back on The Undertaker's comments for a second, which I kind of do want to do. Hang on for a second. Because he said that he blatantly said that they're not real men. The Undertaker says WWE superstars in this era were real men compared to today's superstars. I want to go directly to that quote. Undertaker said, just to kind of remind you guys, in that era of guys too, men were men. You go into a dressing room today and it's a lot different. I remember walking into my first real dressing room. Half of them had knives and guns in their backs. Shit got handled then. Now you walk in and there's guys playing video games and fucking making sure they look pretty. It's evolution, I guess. I don't know what it is, but I just like those eras, man. I liked when men were men. Well, I mean, he didn't necessarily say, because how did the other article pretty much detail what he said? Hang on for a second. Loading up right now. Hang on. Because I want to see if they took him out of context. Let me see. The article said he previously said that the WWE superstars of the current era are not real men compared to the wrestlers, but he didn't say that. He didn't say that. He essentially said the same thing that Shawn Michaels said, but a little bit more blunt. He said back then the men were men. Now, granted, I would definitely say that, you know, obviously the atmosphere back then isn't something that I would want for anybody's atmosphere to prove that they're a real man, as far as having to have knives and guns. And I think I said it in the video a couple of, you know, when this was hot at the time, and I haven't changed my stance on that. But at the same time, and you know, the way that Shawn Michaels is notating this, it almost seems, and I'm not going to just, you know, say that this is conclusive, but are the wrestlers really complaining about traveling? Is that a thing? Is the NXT wrestlers complaining about traveling? Because he said if they complain to him about traveling around Florida, are they complaining about traveling in their state as is? I'm not sure what that means, because if they're really sitting there complaining about, oh my God, we have to do more tours within the state of Florida, because that's where NXT's headquarters are, then yeah, that's not even lacking manhood. That's just pure unadulterated fucking laziness. What are you talking about? Like I have to drive 45 minutes to work every day. Are they bitching about traveling, touring inside of the state that they're already in a couple of times a year? That can't be I refuse to believe that's the case. That's not even pussyish. That's just lazy. But to even go a little bit further as far as how they actually carry themselves, you guys tell me. You tell me. You look on Twitter, you look on social media, it almost seems as if whenever you say something somewhat offensive that they're going to take out of context, or hell, not even offensive, you can pull, because that's what it is nowadays. I talked about this a couple of days ago, but politics is a downstream to pop culture, which is a downstream to professional wrestling. You can just have a take in regards to your own political beliefs. And if it's not of the left, if it's not of the progressive take, which people can try to play these games as much as they want, the mainstream right now is progressivism. The mainstream is the hard left. If you go against that belief, even if it stems from, say, a religious perspective, which 9 times out of 10, that's usually how that goes, but people just simply don't want to be on board with your delusional bullshit, and you call that delusional bullshit, which is what it is. You guys know where I'm going with this. You get ostracized for that. You pull for a political candidate and they have those beliefs, you get ostracized for it. You even go as far as to like a comment. You don't have to make the comment. You can like the comment of a pretty innocuous position that doesn't conflate with your own political beliefs. It's not even the fans. Oh, don't get it twisted. The fans do get pissed off and butthurt. But the ones who are amplifying it aren't the fans. The ones who are amplifying it are the people backstage. The Ricochets of the world. The Mustafa Ali's of the world. The Mia Yims of the world. Who else? The Bronson Reeds of the world. You know, these are the people who are amplifying this message. People like Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch who take pictures in front of BLM signs, like as if you're actually helping the cause. All you're doing is promoting a scam organization. You're not helping anything. And when people say, well, yeah, that's kind of a bunch of bullshit what you're actually pandering out there, they come at your throats, and then the fellow wrestlers come at your throats. And it's just like, yeah, you're soft. I think it was Dutch Mantel who said it best. I liked it better when the marks weren't in the ring and they were actually, you know, in the crowd. That's what it is. That's what it is. And you know what? One can maybe make an argument that social media and Twitter overall is the foundation as to why you call these wrestlers so. Because I feel as if they always had these beliefs, but there was never a platform or a podium, at least that easily accessible for you to promote your feelings, for people to see your feelings. I think these feelings, not even in most of these people, by the way, I can tell you that I guarantee you it's a bunch of mentally ill people who have these certain kind of beliefs and they never had a podium, right? And you can emotionally appeal to certain people with this type of, you know, mental illness, if you will, because that's what it is. The things that the progressives and the hard left believe in, I would say 80% of it is mostly just diluted mental illness 10 years ago. You promote this message, and then the wrestlers see it, then they take it, and then they run with it. It's all based off of social, not even the internet, social media. It's all having access to a podium. It's having access to a podium, and that dopamine effect of virtue signaling with said type of accessible virtue signaling. It's all just a new way for people to feel good about themselves, and to have people notice that they feel good about themselves. I think that's what it stems for when it comes to people calling the wrestlers soft. That's the main crux of the argument. That's the main crux of the problem. And then you use that, and for the most part, you want to cultivate an environment that pretty much doesn't, look at that at all. You know what I mean? The whole, everybody's sexist if you look at a woman the wrong way type of atmosphere. That's gone. Now, obviously, there are some things that you don't want in professional wrestling. That was back in the days. That was downright fucking criminal. Like, like the British Bulldogs giving steroids to a fucking dog. People shitting in people's bags. That's not funny. That's not manly. That's disgusting, and you should be in fucking prison. That's what that is. I don't think Undertaker was referring to that as far as being soft. I think he was referring more so to the actual stature as far as how men carry themselves overall. And yeah, that is a problem. It's a huge problem. It's why you see so many beta males and so many people lack testosterone within the wrestling business today. The lack of muscular structure, how smaller they're getting, why you have to outright show dominance by saying, hey, you don't have to be a big man to be dominant in this business. You don't believe me? Let's bring up this insanely, this will never happen in the real world scenario where you have someone like MJF and Adam Cole going out there and beating someone like a Big Cass and a Brian Cage, knowing good and damn well that either one of these individuals by themselves could beat both of these guys within an inch of their lives in real life. You know what I mean? And I think constantly having to bring up the softness in professional wrestling has to be attested for. You don't have to bring up the environment of the wrestlers back then as far as the gnarly shit that they were doing, because even back then, I think some of the wrestlers would not approve of the structure of the environment even back then. They just kept their mouth shut. But to sit back and say things like, oh, it's not, we shouldn't care so much about wrestlers sitting in the back just playing video games all day, and if they have to do something in regards to helping out their match and getting over with an audience, having to go over their Tekken spots, having to go over their Mortal Kombat spots, having to go over their Taekwondo spots. And then if you're conflating all that, which what it looks like is you don't want to tour around one specific state, then yeah, you create a state of professional wrestling where now it's impossible to carry yourself as a legitimate man, an actual hard body man, because not a beta male little boy who wants to pretend to be a man, but a hard body male, how a man is supposed to be when they carry themselves dominant, confident, actually showing, hey, look at me and know what you should be going towards to do as far as how I look from a health standpoint, how you carry yourself. That hard body personality and structure as to what carries a man, it bleeds down. And yeah, little by little, because obviously everybody's going to do things a little bit more differently, you start to lose a little bit of that masculinity as time goes on. But there's no outright rejection as to what you see right now, because the outright rejection is now just creating a new foundation, a new fundamental for what is perceived to be a man, which is this nonsense playing video games backstage and playing out Tekken spots. Because now, as I said before, little by little the masculinity dies, and what little masculinity you already just completely torn down to create a new structure, that's now going to be the new template. And little by little, that's going to start trickling down. So you get to a point where you have wrestlers who don't even want to tour within a state. That's fucking ridiculous. Wrestlers who are complaining about touring within a state. Wrestlers who have access to a PC performance center where they could just walk in anytime and be treated like a goddamn king or queen while staying fit. There's no having to pay and look around town and, hey, I wonder if we can find the nearest gym. When you tour, when you're on the main roster, that's probably a little bit different. But even then, you come back to Florida, there's no gym. You know where to go to. That's a luxury. You know what I mean? That's a blessing. You get days off. Wrestlers actually get days off nowadays. Guaranteed contracts. Treated like an actual employee for the most part. Although they'll sit back and pretend that they're not, because again, we've gotten that soft as professional wrestlers. Well, fans looking at professional wrestlers, that a guaranteed contract with lucrative deals that coincide with that contract, when you're not even 1/10 over than the wrestlers who actually had to scratch and claw on contracts that, like, there was no contract. The guarantee that you had was $1,500. Mankind, Mick Foley, said that his guaranteed contract was like $1,000 to $1,500 that entire year. That's what he was guaranteed. No health insurance. None of that stuff. No vacation time. They worked hurt. And again, gradually speaking, I'm happy that the wrestling business has gotten healthier. But it's gotten healthy to the point that it's accommodating everything for a professional wrestler where they can have this kind of attitude. Just like everybody else in the me generation today. Everything handed to you. Nothing worked for. And yet you complain about the things that are handed to you. It's people take out of context the whole perspective of what Undertaker and even Shawn Michaels, a little bit more light, but even what Shawn Michaels is saying. No one is saying you're soft because you don't look or you have to carry around a knife and a gun. No one is saying that. No one is saying you have to be a dangerous fucktard in order to be a man. But we are saying you're not carrying yourself like a man. And it does, at least in comparison to the other wrestlers, you're not carrying yourself like a man. And it does reflect off the business. And the business right now is still steadily on a downtrend. Look at that. The business so comfortable, so easily accessible as far as how comfortable it is, that you don't even have to be a draw anymore. You can still earn that same contract because in the end of the day, between the stock exchange and between all the lucrative contract deals coincide with TV dying, now you have these screenwriters on strike, which makes professional wrestling even more lucrative because who the fuck really needs screenwriters? I mean, they may say that they're in the business to get a Golden Globe, WWE that is, but you don't really need a creative direction or creative or screenwriter. No, you don't. You don't have to pay for that shit. It's just paying for the production if you got it like that. Everything handed to this generation of wrestlers. Everything handed to this generation in general. That's what they mean about being soft. Not having to carry around a gun or a knife, but carrying yourself, generally speaking, as a man, to at the very least influence the future. Because if men aren't there to influence the future, and it's feminized, like how they want to virtue signal today, there's a reason why men were built to be put into a position to lead and to dominate, and women were put into a position to be compassionate and emotional. There are roles played, and they balance each other out. But when you try to vice versa the roles, or even in certain instances eradicate completely one role, you're not helping anybody. Your virtue signaling and your emotional appeal is nothing more than destroying, being destructive, and not creating a future pleasurable. And hell, one may even argue in the same state that we're currently in right now, you're not making it easier for your future kids. Hell, if you even want kids to begin with. Let me know down in the comment section below how you felt about today's article, how you felt about my opinions in regards to masculinity, and what Undertaker is really talking about when he means your professional wrestlers are soft today, and what Shawn Michaels is also alluding to. Again, don't take it out of context. Don't read it the way you want to read it. Read it the way it was read. As always, my name is Millennial Smark, and I'll be catching you guys later. Deuces. Peace.